Welcome to In the Spotlight. I'm Shirley. Now, I'm really honored today to be meeting with Ruby Chen, who is the co-founder and CEO of CNEX Foundation, as well as CNEX Studio. So let's welcome Ruby. Hi, Ruby.
Hi, Shirley. It's a pleasure to be here with you on your program.
Yes, I'm feeling really honored to be able to meet you. But I understand that CNEX produces documentaries, mostly about China's history and culture and whatnot. But we'll learn all about that in just a moment.
Sure.
So we are going to start off with you telling us a story that has made an impact on you, right? Yeah, you want to start off by telling that story before we get to know more who Ruby is and everything. Yeah.
Sure. I'm by definition a pure Taiwanese. I'm the seventh generation of immigration from Fujian province. My grandfather used to tell me that I'm the seventh generation from Fujian and into Taiwan.
Wow, you keep track of that, seventh generation. Okay.
Exactly. My grandfather's very proud of his own career and what he has done for the family. My father, moved from central Taiwan to Taipei, and got married with my mom, and I was born back home in my grandfather's house, and then I totally grew up in Taipei. So by the time I was about 8 to 9 years old, my father one day came home with this whole set of books. I still remember it's 东方少年世界伟人名著. So it's kind of like all the great people of the world's story. Wow. I think it's a set of, I can't remember exactly, maybe around 30 or something books about all great people.
Then?
I was like 9 years old.
Oh, okay.
So you can see my father's great aspiration of wanting me, or try to bring me up as someone who can be something. I read really fast those stories of great people. I, of course, was inspired by many of them. But I think among all these great people, fantastic stories. When you grew up, you understand, these are beautified stories for kids. But when you were little, you kind of like totally fascinated.
Yeah, believed every word.
Believed every word in it, and aspire to be one of, maybe one day to be someone like one of them. And I was particularly inspired by the female characters.
Oh, I'm sure.
So kind of like the scientist, Nightingale.
Nightingale.
Nightingale, and the whatever, and then of course all the great people, Chen, Dr. Sun Yat-sen, of course, and many others. So for me, I think that was like my first global exposure in that sense, because I think back then the Taiwan education doesn't really tell you that many things about different things around the world.
Yeah.
So for me, I felt like my value system was first seeded back then.
Okay. In what way? You just know you want to become someone great?
Not so much, but it's more like how these people used to overcome the difficulties and challenges in their life, and they overcame, they transformed themselves and became someone or something great for the people. And I think it's not about being great yourself, it's about being able to help people, being able to make a difference.
Oh, okay. Well, then let's start from when you were little and see how well you did every step of the way then.
Still working on it.
You're very humble. So, are you the only child in the family?
I'm in fact the eldest.
Okay.
Okay. My grandfather is the only son in the family. Oh. My father is the only son in the family. Oh. My father has a elder sister, but in the traditional Chinese Taiwanese system,
yes,
boys count and girls doesn't.
Don't. Yeah, right.
So that's boys don't. Boys has their responsibilities and accountabilities towards the family.
Yes.
Girls are someone who will be married to someone else, in a different family to take care of someone else.
Right.
So, like parents used to joke about, oh, I'm raising someone's wife when they have a daughter.
Right.
Anyways, I was born to the family as the eldest. In my sibling, I had, after that, a younger brother and 2 younger sisters. Mm-hmm. But when you can imagine when I was born, my grandfather and my whole family was very anxious. They were all hoping, I think, secretly wanted to have a boy.
Right.
But I was a girl.
Right.
Nevertheless, I was very happy because I think I grew up in a lot of love because my grandparents decided that I was a lovely kid. And, so my parents, of course, they moved from Zhanghua to Taipei and, to try to build their own career here. My father was in business. So I was, grew up as a daughter of a business person. My father is a very smart and not so hardworking, but very smart business person.
Okay.
Well, I think, in my view, it's not so hardworking, but I don't know. Maybe he would disagree with me. So I grew up learning, many things in school, of course, but also from my family, where I saw my parents were doing business. Sometimes not so successful, sometimes successful. And when he's not so successful, my mother kicks in and do like knitting works or making small money to help support the family. So
wow.
I grew up seeing many things in the common life of citizens.
Oh, all right. So you were telling me that you weren't really into studies. Am I right? You weren't really a great student. Or maybe just according to your point of view, though.
Could be.
Your parents probably thought you would.
But I always felt like if I would work a little bit harder, I might be, doing something different every steps of my life. But because I'm the way I am, I think I listen very carefully in the class. All these classes, I listen very carefully what the teacher had to taught us. Get impatient once he had to say the second time, because he's trying to make people understand. So you can understand that he's trying to tell the story back and forth,
Yes.
And then if he sees confused faces, he might do it the third time. I easily got annoyed and say, yeah, I understand that. Stop, move on to something new. But anyways, that's how I was. And the reason I say I didn't study hard was I was much more interested in reading other books than the textbooks.
Oh, I think I know what you mean. When I bring when my kids were younger, and I would take them to the library, once they were settled down and everything, I would wonder what I'm going to pick up and read myself. But you know what? I always go for encyclopedias. Right. I always like to read encyclopedias because I like to learn things that are not taught in school.
Exactly. So perhaps when I say I didn't work so hard, was what I meant was I didn't do it the way the adults would like us to. Mm. But I sort of like explored the world in my own way. Mm. But anyways, so I got into junior high school level. Back in our days, I was supposed to go to these compositive high school. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But then my father decided I should go and take tests and exams to get into these private junior high school because he believes those were better. I got myself into Wellesley's Girls High in the junior high school level. That's where my world, the window to the world opened again. Because I was lucky, and I think I was really blessed to have very good teachers, there. And then our schoolmaster, it's wonderful lady.
Yeah, that's so important, to have really good teachers when you were a child in your upbringing. When you grow older, you never forget the contribution that they gave to you in your life, right?
Exactly.
So that is great. So, I wonder just how well you speak English without having studied abroad. How did this happen?
it really owing to Mrs. Williamson. She's my first English teacher. She's a missionary from the U.S. In our school back then, the Wellesley Girls High School was lucky enough to have quite a lot of missionary teachers from the States, and she was very, very tough. Yeah. We weren't allowed to speak even one word of Chinese in the class.
Oh,
and
I think that's good. That's a good practice.
It's as if you were immersed in a full English-speaking environment, learning ABC, all the alphabets to start with, but not saying a Chinese word.
Right.
That's so great. I think that gives me a very good basics. You got probably good pronunciation, the right way to think about English, or not memorizing all the vocabularies or things. Of course, we have to do the textbook, but we were more on the side, learning many things about the U.S., English as a language, then trying to use English as a tool to pass your exam. I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that's great. So no wonder that's why, I guess that's why you landed on the job that you did at McKinsey, which is one of the biggest,
right.
international management consulting firms. And do you think that's why? Well, that's a big jump from...
That's part of the reason. But I think, beyond just good English, there are so many other things in between. After Wellesley's junior high school graduation, I did my high school exam. In my view, not so good, because I got myself into the third, girls' high school, which is Jingmei Nuzhong in Taiwan. And I was hoping I could get into either the first one or the second one.
Right.
So you could, imagine for a young girl back in that age, I was quite frustrated.
You had great ambition for a girl at your age, I guess.
I guess so, but that was something. So I decided to go back to study high school in Wellesley, and then my father convinced me to take a different path. So I went to study in Mingchuan Girls College, and I majored in international trading. That got me into the, about 8 years before I got into McKinsey & Company. I was doing international business in different shipping companies, multinational operations in Taiwan for all these years. And at one point I got married and I had a son, so I quit my job and I learned to do simultaneous interpretation for all these international conferences. So I quit my 9-to-5 job and then I became an interpreter for conferences. And that's how I got myself to know, McKinsey and how they got to know me. So I was doing freelancing for them, and that's how it got myself into McKinsey the first place, despite the fact that I tried to resist that, because I wanted to stay, to have the freedom of being a freelancer.
A freelancer doing what?
Simultaneous interpretation in conferences.
You like that, huh? You enjoy that.
Very challenging.
Yes, I know.
And it was very, very fun. And you get to learn so much different things because you will be doing conferences from international business to economics to some political issues, environmental issues, etc. So for me, you always have to prepare well before you get into that small, tiny interpreter's booth.
The booth.
And then you have to study hard, all the fundamentals. So I guess that's why when McKinsey met me, they really liked me.
I see. But I'm thinking back in those days, I don't think there are that many multinational companies around Taiwan, though. But for you to have the opportunity to be able to work in that kind of environment, and then going on to simultaneous interpretation, which I'm sure was not that common back then, that you had all these opportunities, which is really rare. But these are These are great opportunities.
These are great opportunities, great challenges. And I think I, of course, worked very hard, but I think I was also blessed and lucky.
Did you get formal training in simultaneous interpretation? I mean, back then, there weren't such thing as courses in this.
I did. I went to, back then it was called CPC, China Productivity Center. It was a subsidiary under the Ministry of Economics, 中国生产力中心, under Ministry of Economics. And then they have this 6-month program. So what I did was we drove myself from after the work, 6 o'clock to the class. And I do that for 6 months. Other than the first 2 bits, I was not in Taiwan, but 2 weeks I was not in Taiwan. Then I think I was there every classes. I passed the exam that you have to take after you finish that program. So you have a certificate saying that you did the program. You have to pass another test so that you can start working in these conferences.
I guess you don't have time for that now, do you? Simultaneous interpretation.
I can do that.
Yeah, you can.
Still.
Oh, you still do that?
No, I don't. I don't do it anymore as a profession. But I still occasionally had to help people communicate.
Sure. Yes, that is a lot of fun, but it's a lot of challenges. It's a lot of pressure, and I enjoy doing that too. And I think I'm better off doing simultaneous than. What's the other one? Which is like
the consecutive interpretation.
It's a consecutive interpretation.
Right.
Because you forget what was said before.
You have to take notes.
I know, but I never took formal training, so with shorthand maybe or whatever. I never took that. But of course, I've got colleagues here who actually came over after getting a degree in interpretation and translation from, I think, Shida,
Yeah. Now there are more schools teaching this. Yeah.
That is right.
And there's more demand. Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow, that is amazing. Yeah, that simultaneous interpretation is a lot of fun. I do agree.
Yeah, I did it for a few years before I got into McKinsey, and then I continued to do that because
McKinsey too.
For McKinsey, because McKinsey just opened the office in Taipei, and then 2 years down the road, we started to open offices in China. So I also was, part of that McKinsey earlier spearhead. Developing clients and developing McKinsey's businesses in China.
Yeah. Well, I think the way to keep up is to read just, don't be biased, but reading all sorts of information, reading all sorts of magazines and books and whatnot to help you equip for this kind of job, simultaneous interpretation. Right.
And I have that interest of the word.
Yeah, you love reading.
So it's kind of like, I don't take it so much as a work for me. It's honestly for me to know more about the word, and that's I think that's a lot of fun.
That is right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break here before we go on to talk about whatever that Ruby is doing right now, which got nothing to do with what we just talked about, or even McKinsey. It's after McKinsey, so we'll take a break here. Welcome back to In the Spotlight. I'm Shirley Lin, and today in the studio with me I have Ruby Chen, who is the co-founder and CEO of CNEX Foundation and CNEX Studio. Okay, so we're going to start talking about CNEX, all right? So how long ago was it that you started? Can I say you started? Because you started with 2 other guys. And what is CNEX and why?
Right. So CNEX was funded 10 years ago, and then it was started by myself, my good partner Ben Zhang, and also Chao Wei Zhang. So the 3 of us, conspired this initiative of doing documentary films for the contemporary Chinese world. And the reason we started was because we were all, and we are still documentary film lovers. Chao Wei, he himself is a documentary filmmaker. Ben used to be a entrepreneur and still is an entrepreneur, I have to say. He's part of the team that funded the portal, the first Chinese portal, Sinout.com. I was, working with McKinsey & Company in Beijing back then. This was year 2006. So my husband is a filmmaker himself, making movies. His name's Xu Xiaoming, as I told you. We were all Chinese, and also Taiwanese, of course.
Yes.
So we were all, brought up here in Taiwan. He had done films that were very successful. 少年的安娜, Dust of Angels, kind of like break the box office record that year when it was released. And then the film went to Cannes Film Festival, etc. So he's continued to do movie in the movie industry. So I have been helping him on the side. So this was the occasion where Chao Wei and my husband worked on something in Taiwan before, and then when they have this idea of wanting to make documentary films, they came to my husband, and my husband said, "Oh, if you want to do something across Greater China, which means Taiwan, Hong Kong, and China, then you have to talk to my wife because she's the one who understands how to get these things work."
Oh.
So that's how we started talking about, not making just one documentary films about Taiwan or about China, but trying to collect all the good works from all these different independent documentary filmmakers in the field. They all have great stories and great people that they are following, that they're filming. And we provided a platform. So CNEX is a platform funded to provide funding for these people, provide filmmaking advisory to these people, and help them promote and distribute the films, the documentary films, once these films are done. So we set off to do that. So every year we would announce a topic, ask a big question that it's influencing the Chinese world, and having people submit their proposal, their film projects, and then we would form a jury member to select and decide whom we would be giving the fund.
But is that how you started in the beginning, is to have people actually contribute their works, and then you guys as a jury to pick the ones that you want to dealing with?
Yeah, we support 10 films every year.
Oh.
So the vision was to have 10 films through these type of grassroots, exploration, and then funding support, and also filmmaking support. So after 10 years, which is this year, 2016, yes, we will have 100 films.
You're right. Wow.
And it's meant to document the development of the first bit of the 21st centuries, the Chinese world, which is going through such a huge change and transformation. If you think of what mainland China is going through, Hong Kong, after 1997, what are the changes? The social developments. Taiwan, the democracy, how is it doing? The baggages of the histories and the visions of the future. I think that's CNEX's intention, is to collect that, and then so we have a good compilation of the history of this decade.
So not so much from not so much before 21st century, but it's more like this period of major change and cultural differences and all that kind of stuff.
Right. We are specialized in human interest films, social development, social issues, environmental issues. All these important things that affect the Greater China world, including Taiwan, of course.
Yeah. I see. But you guys try to avoid really sensitive topics, right? So you kind of cover more.
Not so true. No, there are many sensitive topics. They are.
Well, what I meant is some of the major events that happened, for example, Tiananmen Square. I mean, you don't cover those.
There's no way to cover those for the moment.
For the moment, okay.
I'm sure there will be, and I'm sure they are. And then it's a matter of when is the best timing to do something that can make an impact.
I see.
And I think with me and Ben and Chao Wei, we are patient and we are visionary. We believe Chinese people can live in a better and peaceful world than the way it is now. Everybody deserves a better life, and we have to all work hard towards that.
So do you travel along with these crew that go make these documentaries? Do you actually travel with them?
I personally only did it a little bit because we have our production team, and Chao Wei is the guy who's heading our production team.
Right.
So they would be doing more like the actual shooting and things like that. I have occasionally paid visit when they were doing something, either during the shooting or post-production period.
Right.
I spent a whole lot of time working with Chao Wei Bin and the team on reviewing the initial rough cut and giving suggestions, or discuss the story structuring and the direction of the film with the filmmakers.
Right. Yeah, that is important. So you actually you are involved every single 10 in each year of the final cut and just the flow.
Try to, but we also divide and conquer. So when you have 10, if they all rushed in at the same time, you have to spread yourself out on different things. But if they come in a kind of ideal world, they come in the flow, and then you can do it one by one. That's the best thing.
True.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always work.
It doesn't always happen that way.
It doesn't. It doesn't always happen that way.
And a typical thing is that you would have version 10 of a film, and the director is still thinking of changing it.
That is right. That is right. Now, kind of a little off the subject here. I'm curious, which is easier to make, one of those Hollywood action movies or documentaries?
I think nothing is easy. Everything has its challenges and difficulties. Hollywood films, cost a lot of money, requires a lot of talent and resources, but ultimately, I think it's the creativity and the innovation that makes a huge difference, because every year there are thousands of films, or more than thousands and hundreds of films. There were only, some that can be outstanding. And if you want to do something that's outstanding, you have to have, your distinctiveness.
That is right. Whereas documentaries?
Documentary films is most important, I think it's the integrity, and it's the truthfulness of this. So I think there are of course what in the documentary world, it's the media produced documentary films. It's the individual independent documentary films. We were much more in supporting the independent filmmakers, because those are the ones who require these supports.
Sure.
And so among those films, there are typically poor filmmakers who have probably been spending years on something, following a few characters on the issue that's really important or dear to his heart or her heart. So, but they only have those raw footages, but not into a film. With the small money that we were able to gather and provide to them, they could then finishing it up, edit properly, and have a way, good post-production. All these can be done within little money, maybe more time, more people's in-kind service in that sense, to finish good films. So ever since CNEX was established, we were able to, for instance, support Zhang Jingwei on the film KJ, Music and Life, which is in Chinese called 音乐人生. That was a big hit in the Golden Horse Award.
Yes.
So we had won 3 Golden Horses with that film in Taiwan. And the film was released in theatrical release for 8 months in Hong Kong. That's where the story took place. And then ever since then, the film traveled, a lot of places. We have also supported director Du Haibin's film, which, including Umbrella, which talks about the rural grass, social status in China, about how people were eager to make money, but the life that they were having. And also this other film, 1428, which was after the Sichuan earthquake. The film talks about the aftermath, and then also, a couple months down the road, how it has been restored and the people's status. Both those films went to Venice Film Festival, and also French festivals and won prizes, so international prizes winner. What I meant to say is that, while it's difficult to make, but you could really make huge impact if you do it right. And CNEX is there to help filmmakers to not just finish their film, but finish their film well and be able to, carry it around with a higher impact. And through films, we believe people are nowadays easier to be moved or impact by visuals. And film is one of the good ways. So documentary films can really, contribute to that social movement sometimes. And even if, just changing the mindsets or increasing the knowledge.
I wonder, I suppose, do you guys make these 10 documentaries each year with the idea of entering different contests around the world?
We didn't want to do that. We just wanted to, we have a slogan, it's called, in Chinese it's 给下一代太平盛世的备忘录. So in English we just call it, Chinese, looking for Chinese 2.0. We believe there could be a different version of Chinese by a broader definition. And we were doing this in our small way to help that. I think people benefit from understanding more what others are doing and thinking. Then just focus on yourself. And we believe documentary films has that. So ever since, we funded the foundation 10 years ago. 2 years ago, we established CNEX Foundation, which is a bit like a social enterprise, company. We started to do also distribution in a more professional way. And also we now have a CNEX doc channel, which is a 24-hour documentary only digital channel on MOD. You
can actually watch the whole thing?
You could watch the whole thing.
Oh, nice.
Not just our films, but also films that we, bought and acquired from international. All great films.
I see. I got this feeling that lately, even if it's like watching Hollywood movies, I feel like there's so many movies that have come out based on true stories.
Exactly.
Do you not feel the trend? You see that too, right?
Of course.
And I just love those kind of movies,
Exactly.
Or
whenever
maybe,
the story says based on true story, then you had that feeling of, wow, these things could really happen. And in documentary words, you see these things just right in front of you with the characters themselves. Sometimes really sad, but it's really thought-provoking.
Yeah, they make an impact. Sometimes I walked into a movie in the middle of it, and I'm going like, wait, is this based on a true story? I can't wait to see at the end, when it gives the credit, it'll tell you that this was based on a true story, and it tells you the background of what happened, or, what happened, or what happened to the person now, or something like that. And I love those kind of movies.
Yes.
And I don't know why. It's just, it really does make you think. And I'm seeing that, there's more in those kind of movies nowadays, which I think is good. Because, sure, they can always keep on going, making these, horror movies or make these, action movies. But, after you watch it for 2 hours and you leave the theater, you forget it all. And it doesn't leave as much of an impact as if it was based on true stories, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Entertainment has its value because people sometimes need to relax. Documentary films has its value because it's real. Through the filmmaker's eyes, we see what's happening, and that's the world that we're living in. So I think CNEX is all about trying to contribute what we can do well, and trying to rally along more supporters for documentary films to understand the world better, and hence trying to make a better world.
Right. I understand you're a nonprofit. Are you non-government?
Non-government.
Non-government.
Yeah.
How do you survive? How do you get funding?
We had to really working hard on our fundraising, donation.
Oh my goodness!
Calling.
Besides producing 10 documentaries a year, you still have to think about fundraising activities.
Yes. Well, the world is a place full of challenges and interesting stories.
Right. But CNEX, for the fact that it survived 10 years, and happy anniversary, by the way.
Thank you.
Congratulations. So I'm sure it's doing very well, and it's being noticed, and people are really going to benefit from all these works that you put into it, and all these documentaries are going to they're going to pass on down, into generation, so it'll never be forgotten. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
I would really sincerely hope so, and I would like more people to pay attention to documentary films and to what CNEX is doing.
All right. CNEX as in CNEX. So.
Oh, by the way, it stands for Chinese next.
That's right.
And also for you to see next.
Okay, got that? All right, well, I'd love to talk to you more, Ruby, but,
Time's up?
Yeah, time's up.
Thank you very much for having the opportunity to have me here. It's really an honor.
Yes, it's been a joy talking to you, Ruby. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shirley.
All right. Thank you so much for watching In the Spotlight. I'm Shirley Lin.